Back in 2016, I uploaded a video right here on this channel that just kind of shared with you how I actually keep and breed Dendrobaena worms at home. However, over the last 4 years, things have changed slightly, and I've made that process a little bit easier for myself. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how I can keep Dendrobaena worms alive for several months, and I'm also going to be sharing with you how I am actually able to breed them. Now, the first thing I'm going to share with you is that I don't have luxuries like outhouses, outbuildings, garages or anything like that. All my tattle is stored at home in the tattle room, and that goes the same for my bait as well. So there are two main reasons why I would want to keep these worms alive. The first one obviously is because I wouldn't want to waste them, and by making sure that they don't die on you, you can keep them alive. It means that you're obviously saving money on your next bait bill, but it also means that you've always got some worms in stock at home as well. Now, the first thing to remember is that while these worms are at room temperature, or the temperature that we're at now, then these worms are quite happy and they're going to be wriggling away. But if you're going to be storing worms like that, you will need to feed them. I feed my worms on one thing only, and that is used tea bags, and that is it. Used tea bags, obviously, depending on the quantity of worms that you've got in here, that will determine how much food you need to give them. But while ever they're at this temperature, they will need to feed, okay? And if you are intended on breeding them, then that is exactly what you need to do. Keep them at room temperature, keep them feeding, because while ever they're feeding, they're moving about, they're going to breed, okay? Be careful about the quantity that you keep. I keep my worms in these very same bags. Whilst ever they're eating, they're going to start breeding, and you'll probably find that over several weeks you will start to have small worms actually just appearing in here as they're actually breeding. The great thing about that is that you're going to have worms of all different sizes, and that also means that you're going to be able to have Dendrobaenas that are literally 1 inch to 2 inch long, and they can be ideal hookworms, particularly on conditions when it's really windy, when red worms can be great. However, sometimes you're having to punch a feeder into a wind and the red worms aren't tough enough to stay on the hook. That is when we would use small Dendrobaenas, purely because they're much tougher and much more durable. Now, as regards keeping the worms, I aim to do one thing with the worms. If I'm intending on keeping these for several weeks or several months even, I will want to slow them down. The best way to slow them down is by putting them in the fridge. Simple as that. I keep them in these same bags, I put them in the fridge, and what the fridge will do is obviously reduce the temperature of the worms. It slows them right down, just like it does with maggots and pinkies, and that means that they won't want to feed as much, and that means that you can slow down the metabolism, and it will allow you to keep them for several months if you need to. You will still need to put some feed in there, they will still be riddling, and one of the top tips I can tell you is that when they are in that bag, just put that inside another bag. It's amazing how worms can escape from these bags. Sometimes we haven't got a clue how they've done it, but if they are going to do that, then obviously it's much better if they're contained within another bag so that they're not escaping all around your fridge. So for me, there are two ways of keeping them. There's one where I keep them in the fridge. They're the ones that I intend to continue using for chopping and taking to matches, and the ones I intend to breed I just simply keep at room temperature. Simple as that. The key reasons why I've changed the way that I do this, just to give you a little bit of an insight into it, is because when they are in small bags like this, they are much easier to manage. It's quite easy to just simply pick that bag up and take that with me to the next session. It also means that because they are in a smaller confined space, as opposed to the large tubs that I used in my video in 2016, when you've got large tubs like that, the worms can spread out, so that when you need to go there to get some worms for your next session, because the worms are also spread out, it takes you much longer to pick them and bag them ready for your session. When you've got them already in bags like that, the worms are in a smaller confined space, and you often find that in bags like this, the worms will ball together, so they're much easier to pick out as well for when you're chopping, and it means that everything is indoors where it's nice and safe and secure. So this has just been a little bit of an insight into how I've stored, kept and bred worms over the last 4 years. It's a system that works for me, and I hope you find this little bit of an insight helpful.